What's up, everybody? Thanks again for joining me this week on our episode of In the Pink. And if you are not familiar with what that term means, that's a term that was coined way back in the 1500s, before pink was even a color. And it had to do with wishing someone their optimum health and happiness. So this week, what we are going over is gut health, and we are filling in that blank with fertility. But as always, we always start out with a what we know. So my first what we know. We know that in this country alone, about 1 in 8 couples struggle with fertility issues. And globally, this number is 1 in 6. In fact, infertility services are even sought out in over 12% of couples trying to conceive, and they're spending on average $7,500 doing it. And my next what we know that when it does come to reproductive health, the focus seems to lie on hormone imbalance, genetics, lifestyle choices, but more and more evidence is pointing to the gut being responsible. And my last what we know that women who were having recurrent miscarriages were found to have abnormal gut permeability, aka leaky gut. And of course, we know that that ties into inflammation, and we're gonna go down a whole road on how inflammation in its essence can be so detrimental to not only becoming pregnant, but retaining and maintaining that pregnancy. All right, so let's move on to the gut's role in all of this. Well, the first thing let's cover quickly is vaginal health. Now, we know that we have a microbiome in our gut lining, but we also have a microbiome in the vagina itself, and they're very similar, having many different varieties of lactobacillus strains particularly. And of course, lactobacillus strains keep that environment acidic because it produces lactic acid. This acidic environment keeps the pathogen level low. All right, the next one, inflammation, which I already warned you we were going to cover. All right, so we know that inflammation is related to so many chronic issues, even low-grade levels of inflammation, right? They are the root cause of chronic disease. So when we have dysbiosis or an imbalance of good gut microbes, in comparison to pathogenic or harmful microbes, we have dysbiosis, okay? Now, dysbiosis is going to play into our immune health, and it's going to play into inflammation because we get an inflammatory response when this imbalance is going on. That is a contributing factor to having poor egg quality, to having poor embryo development. It can result in recurrent pregnancy loss. It plays into disrupting hormone production and even an imbalance in the hormones where progesterone becomes decreased, and that can lead into implantation failures. And also when we have these hormone imbalances, that leads to irregular periods, ovulation issues, and even decreased sperm quality. And if we really want to get into the weeds, we also know that inflammation plays a part in autoimmune issues, even to the point of creating anti-sperm antibodies that are going to obviously be an issue if you are trying to conceive. It's kind of a big deal. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about estrogen specifically. Now, when we typically think of estrogen, we think of that as being a female issue, right? Estrogen imbalance, but it is also an important hormone in men. So think of the easy stuff, right? We know estrogen plays into proper ovulation. It plays into proper thickening of the uterine wall to even retain and maintain a pregnancy. But for men, estrogen plays into libido, which is obviously a big driver in pregnancy. But not only that, estrogen also plays into the production of sperm in the first place. So yes, it's a big deal. Okay, so we know that estrogen is a hormone that our body makes, and it goes through different phases. It gets produced in our bodies, but then it gets resorbed back out. So we have this process going on. And it's an enzyme in our large intestine called beta-glucuronidase that has to do with recirculating this estrogen and then eliminating it from our systems. So So basically converting this bound estrogen into free circulating estrogen and then resorbing it back into our system. Now, studies are also showing that if we don't have a healthy microbiome, estrogen metabolism and estrogen function become compromised, leading to a number of issues. So things like endometriosis, things like PCOS, endometrial hyperplasia, and even infertility. And when we have a high level of this beta-glucuronidase in our system, that generally translates to having a higher level of estrogen or estrogen dominance. So of course that plays out in symptoms. So having heavy, painful periods, irregular cycles, and just menstrual cycle problems in general. But not only that, it causes an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, which can lead to a higher incidence of miscarriage. Now let's look at the flip side. When we have estrogen deficiency, that can lead into an absence of a cycle at all, right? Amenorrhea, which of course leads to anovulation, and disorders in this ovulation alone cause up to 30% of fertility issues in the first place. Okay, let's move on. Stress. We know that stress plays into our gut microbiome and how it is balanced. And not only that, but stress also plays into hormone production and hormone balance. The next one, nutrient absorption and metabolism. Also important roles that our gut plays. And yes, there are specific minerals and vitamins that are very important for healthy conception. And if we are not absorbing them and metabolizing them the way our body ought to, we're gonna run into fertility issues. And some key nutrients I'm talking about here would be vitamin D, folate, and iron. Okay, the next one, we know gut health plays into weight. We also know that women who are overweight have a hard time conceiving. We also know that gut health is tied into thyroid. So when we have an underactive thyroid, that plays into our cellular energy, which plays into our ovarian cells. And when we have decreased ovarian cells, this plays into the absence or even having irregular periods. Having an underactive thyroid also increases prolactin. And we know this increase in prolactin is gonna suppress ovulation. And the last one, if we have an underactive thyroid, it decreases our insulin sensitivity. And wouldn't you know that having an increased level of this circulating insulin in our system increases androgens. And this increase in androgens disrupts ovulation. And the last thing, just pregnancy complications in general. Having an imbalance or this dysbiosis leads to a higher risk of preeclampsia, a higher risk in gestational diabetes, and preterm birth. Isn't it, once again, pretty staggering how this is all circular in motion? Everything is woven together. All right, time to move on. Let's move on to some healthy practices. What are some things we can be doing on a daily basis to improve our health in general? Well, the first and foremost, we're always gonna start with diet. Make better food choices, whole foods, a wide assortment of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, and fermented foods because they promote good gut bacterial growth. Lay back on processed foods, lay back on sugar. This stuff is detrimental to our gut microbiome. And if I could be so bold, start looking at what an anti-inflammatory diet looks like. Because yes, food also plays into this in a very big role. And I know you know that because if you've gone out on a sugar bender one night, you get up and you feel poofy. That sugar is detrimental to our systems. The next one, stress reduction. I know, easy to say, hard to do, but stress plays into everything, and especially when it affects our hormone balance as a whole. And of course, I'd be amiss if I didn't say cut back on antibiotic use that isn't absolutely necessary. The next one, how about just avoiding toxins as a whole? I don't know if you are a crunchy person already. I didn't even know what that term meant, you guys. But it means to be very conscious of what you are not only ingesting in your body, but even allowing your skin to come in contact with, because these toxins are real. Become a label reader, become a researcher. And the last thing, supplementation. Consider supplementation. Not only with prebiotics, not only with probiotics, but the nutrients and the micronutrients that our body craves and needs, and we are not getting it from our diet. Which leads me right into the best part. Let's talk Plexus. Let's talk Plexus. And how Plexus definitely can play a role in not only fertility issues you are having, but your health as a whole. So we always start talking about TRIPLEX. Let's start with the cornerstone product and why this is so beneficial for our health picture. Well, that slim, that pink drink, it's not just pretty. This stuff is a powerhouse. And the microbiome activating specifically because it's got prebiotic fibers in there to help feed the probiotics that we are planting with the PROBIO 5. And of course, the PROBIO 5 is not just any probiotic. We have got 5 different strains of probiotics that we want planting and thriving in our gut, but it also has an enzyme blend to break up the yuck. We need to be moving the harmful bacteria out, which generally is a candida overgrowth. And this is not an easy task, but the PROBIO 5 has got the enzyme blend in there that gets that moving out. And to keep things moving out, we need that BIOCLEANSE. Not only is it a fantastic oxygenated magnesium source along with vitamin C and sodium bicarbonate to give us a gentle daily cleanse, but also give our body that magnesium that we need for so many bodily functions. The next one, let's talk vitamins. Let's talk supplementing with premium vitamins that are bioavailable and fully methylated. And this XFACTOR vitamin is a fantastic swap for a prenatal. And you ought to be taking a vitamin, a prenatal, if you are trying to conceive in the first place, which ties into the Mega X. The Mega X is the omega product, also super important when you are trying to conceive, or even if you're not trying to conceive. Getting this proper balance of omegas is really important for overall health and wellness. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging with me till the very end. And if you are new to this Plexus train and have no idea what I am talking about, I'm gonna list in that description box my link. Get on there, nose around, ask me some questions. Curiosity will get you on this train every time. I'm also gonna include in that description box some video links I've done in the past, some playlists that we have going, and our current playlist will be right up here, so if you want to catch a few more episodes, it will be easy for you to sort through them. And you just might want to join me here again next week, because what happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. It affects everything, which is going to lead into many more episodes of In the Pink.